Welcome back, guys. Hope you're doing great. It's Vitri here. So, in this React series, so far we have discussed a lot of stuff in React, how to build a React components and how to work with the advanced hooks and custom hooks and all those stuffs. So, if you haven't watched any of those videos so far, so please click the top right corner. You can see the playlist link, or click the link in the description below. You can watch the complete playlist first, understand the basic React stuffs and everything. Well, in this video, we are basically going to discuss about the Redux state management library in a brief way. Not only Redux, we also going to discuss about the Redux Thunk. Okay. So Redux is one of the most powerful state management tool in React, but most developers learn it in a wrong way, right? Well, in this video, we build a real world Redux Thunk toolkit applications using proper file separations, handling like managing all the files in a separate way, and handling the async logic with the middleware by using the Redux Thunk. And we are going to build some clean business rules for data fetching and so all those things. Well, this is not just a counter app. This is the job ready Redux Thunk example for your understanding in a better way. We are going to build an some kind of e-commerce cart management system, fetching the product and managing the carts, and comes completely from the beginner's stuff completely in the scratch. Okay. In before jumping into this, you need to understand something like what is Redux and what is Redux Thunk, right? So first, let's clear a common confusion. Redux and Redux Thunk are not the same thing. Let's talk about the Redux. What is Redux? Redux is the state container, right? Like it answers only one question, which is how does the state change over the time, right? Redux gives us a single global store where we have the reducers to update those states, and we have the actions to describe what exactly happened with that state. Okay, Redux by itself, it's synchronous only, not asynchronous. It's synchronous. It can handle only the synchronous operations. On the other hand, what is the Redux Thunk? Redux Thunk is a middleware. It allows you to handle synchronous logics, or I mean asynchronous logics like API calls, delays, and side effects, right? So simply, we can handle the asynchronous operations in Redux Thunk, but you can't do it in your Redux store, right? So you just have to keep this simple rule. You have to remember it. It's very important. Redux handles the state. Thunks handles the asynchronous logics. Together, they solve the real world problems. Okay. To work with this, we're going to use this Redux Toolkit. Redux Toolkit. This is the one that we're going to use. Okay, so if you click their official documentations, you can understand how to work with the Redux and Redux toolkits and everything. Okay, that's what we are going to do. Why we need the Redux toolkit? Redux toolkit is the official and recommended way to write the Redux. It removes the boilerplate codes and manual immutabilities and complex setup stuffs, right? So under the hood, it already includes the Thunk support as well as. That's why we're going to use this. Okay, so now let's get started. Instead of keep on talking stuff, let's get start writing the code now. All right then, so first, bring up your react.js project with the plain javascript. So in this case, this is the project with the plain. Inside the app, we do already discuss quite a lot of stuff. Please go ahead and watch those. And here, assume this is your app.jsx, like which we don't have anything in that, just a plain simple text in it. That's it. Okay, the rest of the stuff we have to configure it over here. Okay, so in this case, okay, so let's leave it as it is. And yep, now what we have to do is, all we have to do is to structure our project. So we need to manage our stores and everything. For managing the store, we have the stores, and for managing the API features, we have to create a new folder called API. So this is the place where we are going to have those fetcher JS code and everything. And inside the product slices and the product selectors, all those things needs to be in a separate folder called features. So we're going to keep it inside the folder called features, or you can use the same context folder itself, but in this case I'm going to keep these inside the features itself. Under the features, we're going to have two different subfolders. One is for products, and another one is for the cart, for these two. Okay, and now inside the API, all we have to do is to create a new file called fetcher.js. That's a JavaScript file which helps you to write the code for fetching the JavaScript stuff. Okay, later we can come back and structure the rest of the stuff which we needed. Now before jumping into this, we just need to install certain packages. So let's say npm add and jump into the official documentation and copy this Redux.js toolkit, copy that as well as, and of course you need to install this React Redux as well as. Copy this and paste it. Install these two packages, which is highly necessary and it's strongly recommended. So clear, then npm run dev. Let's run this application. All right, so inside the fetcher, this is the place where we are going to write the code for fetching the JSON, the data, right? So all I have to do is to export const fetch JSON is equals to an asynchronous operation. Okay, so this function is basically going to supply URL. We are going to supply the URL, then as well as we need to supply the signal, that's a parameter, into this function. Open it, then we have to get the response from the fetch. Const response is equals to await using the fetch method. I'm going to supply that URL. Why it is keep on changing in capital letter? I didn't change this URL. Then I need to supply the signal instance. Okay, if the response is okay, if I don't have this response, if not response dot okay, then I just have to throw a new error, which is error on fetching. You based on the URL response.status and the response status text, whatever it is, we just need to print that error. Okay, then right after here, if everything is fine, I just need to return response.json data. All right, so we designed this custom hook for data fetching, right? Use fetch. So basically we can't use this inside your Redux Thunk, because use fetch is a custom hook that can be used only inside your React component, whereas on the other hand, Redux Thunk is a middleware which helps you to trigger the asynchronous operations, but so you can't use these custom hooks in that middleware, right? So that's the reason we can't use this. So that's why we are going for a separate use fetcher. Okay, a separate function which helps us to fetch those data from that API. Okay, and next what we need to do is we have to create the product thunks and its slices, and basically we are going to use the create async thunk handle functions, which helps us to handle the pending and fulfilled and rejected status with these status. So the Redux states tracks loadings and errors automatically. Okay, so let's go ahead and create those product slides now. Under the features and under the products folder, I'm going to create this product slice.js, product slice.js. This is the place where we are going to write that entire stuff over here. So first let's import the two important package from at Redux instance from at Redux.js toolkit, which is going to be your create slice function. Then we're going to use this create async thunk, these two instances. So here the create slice is a function that helps you to create a Redux slice like states plus reducers plus actions in a one place. And the create async thunk is a function that helps you to handle the asynchronous logic like API calls inside the Redux in a clean and structured way. So we're going to use this function. So this removes the need to manually write the actions types like the fetch products request and the success and failure handlings, all those things. We can manage everything inside here itself. All right, so now let's go ahead and so let's bring that import fetch JSON function which we created inside the API fetcher folder. Okay, then right after here, so the fetcher JSON, as I said, is the custom function which is usually a wrapper around the fetch that handles the JSON parsing and supports the abort controller as well as centralizing the error handling. So this keeps logic reusable and simply clean. That's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start writing that. So first let's finish writing the code, then I will explain what exactly it's happening over here. So I'm just going to say export const fetch products is equals to create async thunk, open the function, and inside here you just need to supply the type free prefix. So what exactly that we are trying to do over here, then I need to create an asynchronous function, okay, and supply the let me show you the directory name. Supply the directory name over here, the empty underscore, simply supply the empty underscore, then supply the signal instance, then right after over here get an arrow function, and here this is going to return await fetch JSON, use that function, okay. And here you need to supply your API. So basically for the API we're going to use this fake store API, fakestore.com/API. This is the data that we are going to use. So I'm going to supply that API over here, fakestore api.com/products. Then I need to supply the signal instance which we collected from that API itself, okay. This is it. So what exactly happening over here, right? So at this point over here what we are doing is, so we are simply giving a name, right? It's the action type prefix, like what kind of action it's being triggered, right? So react toolkit automatically creates like product fetch product, like slash pending and slash fulfilled and slash rejected, like these kinds of three different states prefixed using this prefix which we had. So based on that product slash fetch product slash pending, in the sense still the API call is in pending, so we can understand the status of the API calls. Then we have this async slash the signal, okay. So the first argument underscore over here, what exactly is it, which means we don't need any payload, so no payload is needed, so we simply ignore it by giving an underscore over there. And the second argument, the signal, it comes from the Redux toolkit itself, which helps you to which basically used to cancel the request if the component unmounts. That's provided by the Redux toolkit itself. So this is some kind of like a production level pattern which we are using over here, okay. And the fetch JSON is the function which we already created for what, for the API calling purposes, okay. So let's move on to the next step, where we are going to create the product slice now by using the create slice. So const product slice is equals to create slice. Using that function I'm gonna return an object as a value. Oh sorry, it's basically expecting an object as a parameter of this function. Open it. I need to supply the name which is going to be slash products, okay. Then I need to supply the initial state which is going to be, we are going to have the data as an empty string, sorry, empty array, data as an empty array. Then we need to collect the status, what status it is. For initial value it's going to be ideal, okay. Then the error, if there is any error it's going to be bring that error message over here, but here we are simply going to keep the initial status as null. Then I don't need the reduces, so I'm going to keep the reduces as empty. Let me explain later. Then I'm going to create the extra reduces, okay. So this is going to be an arrow function, and here we are going to bring the builder as what, as the parameter. And inside here, using the builder instance, we can add the different cases, like based on the status, like if it is pending, what do you want to do, if it is fulfilled, what do you want to do, if it is rejected, what do you want to do, based on the status what I want to do. That's the reason we are not defining the reduces over there. We need the builder instance to collect the status of the API, okay. Since it's a promise, you're gonna have the pending, failed, and rejected, all these different status over there. Based on the status we need to add the cases, so we're going to use this builder. So builder dot, using the add case function, I'm going to define fetch products dot pending states. If it is still in the pending, what I need to do, I need to have a callback function, collect the state as a parameter inside this function, enter state dot status is equals to loading status, okay. Then right after here what I need to do, I need to add one more case, dot add case, fetch products dot fulfilled. If it is fulfilled, collect the status and the action along with it as an arrow function. And here state dot status is equals to what? Succeeded. Then right after here, state dot data, which is equals to action dot payload. Whatever the payload that we are receiving, we'll store it. Right after here, I'm going to bring one more case, which is going to be fetch product dot rejected. Here we're going to have the state and the action as well as the parameter for this callback function. Inside this function, what I'm going to do, state dot status is equals to failed. Then right after here, state dot data, or I mean error, which is equals to action dot error dot message. Okay, that's the error message. So these are the different cases that we want to create with the builder. Okay, then at the end, all we have to do is to simply export default product slice dot reducer. Simply export that. We can use it in a different place when you're configuring the store. Okay, so let me explain what we did over here, right? So at this point over here, what we are doing, we have the name as a product over here, which is just nothing but your slice name, what particular slice you are creating, used as a namespace for your Redux actions. Then we have the initial state objects over here, right? So these are the initial state where we have the data, status, and the error. So data is just to store your product list. Status is like they track the API state, like ideal, loading, succeeded, failed for that. And errors just to store the error message if any cases if the API is failed. Okay, so this pattern is strongly recommended by the Redux Toolkit's documentation itself. You can go through by clicking this React slice, so you can understand what exactly that is expecting to use that pattern. Okay, then why I have to leave the reducers an empty? Because we no synchronous reducer actions that we don't want any synchronous operations, so I just leave that empty. So we are using the extra reducers for asynchronous logics to handle all the API logics and everything over there based on the status, right? So handling the asynchronous states, for that particular only we are using the extra reducers by collecting the builder. Like the builder is like the instance, like that the API lets you to chain the reduces cleanly. So this is the place we are chaining it, right? We are adding the cases based on the pending, fulfilled, rejected states. We are keep on calling the different actions based on the chaining states over here, because once the promise has been initiated, it is going to be in a ideal state, pending, either, and finally either it going to be fulfilled or rejected. These states are going to be triggered automatically, so we need to change these states properly. That's why we are using this extra reducers over here. Okay, then we having the pending state action, fulfilled state action, and the rejected state action over here. Okay, so all these things triggered when the API it's been called. Okay, based on the status, it's going to trigger those actions. All right, this is what this code is completely all about. All right, so now let's move on to the selectors. So based on the selectors, why we need the selectors to fetch the complete product data and to fetch the status of the product status, whether what status it is being. So I'm going to keep a separate file here. I'm going to create a new file called product selectors.js. So let's say export const select all products is equals to, I'm going to get the state as the parameter, then it is going to return the state dot products dot data, something like that. Okay, then I'm going to create one more function, export const select product status is equals to, from the state I'm going to access the state dot products dot status. It's save it. These are the functions that we can use for what? For selecting the products. Okay, fine. So now let's move on to the next step, which is going to be your the product list, the place where we are going to call this and display it. So before jumping into those stuff, what you have to do is you have to create a store by configuring the store. Then you have to load the store in your main.jsx. So inside the store, which we do have, I'm going to create myself a new file called store.js file. Inside this store file, this is the place where we are going to configure the store. So let's import the configure store from the Redux.js toolkit. Then right after here, I need to bring the product reducer. So let's bring the product reducer from where? From double dot slash features slash product slash product slice. Okay, from the product slice, import the product reducer. Then I'm gonna say export const store is equals to configure the store, open it, and inside here I'm going to bring the reducer, which is basically going to be the products reducer, and map that product reducer with the product reducer which we have created. So now we just successfully configured the store, and now we need to wrap this inside the entire provider component. So let's jump into the main.jsx. Please make sure that you have imported the React Redux provider component from the React Redux. Then you should wrap this stuff entirely inside your provider component. So for you, in your case, this not going to look something like this. So I'm going to hide all this code, hide this, hide this, hide this. Inside the strict mode, all you have to do is to bring your provider. Then you have to bring your Redux, that app.jsx inside this provider wrap. Then you just need to supply the store and bring your store. Please make sure the store is being imported from not this location. So let me bring the store from the different location, from where? Dot slash store dot store dot js, something like this. Save it. Okay, so now I just have to get into, and let me refresh this. If the Redux everything is being configured, you should be able to see this extension being active. This is nothing but like what the React Dev Toolkit. So you just have to search for React Dev Tools extension, Chrome extension. You can simply go ahead and download that React Dev Tools. So if they're using the Redux.js toolkit, you can see this dev tool extension being active. Click it so you can see the tree structures, states. What are the states that we do have? The product state, we have these different data, status, and error. So which means our application Redux toolkit, it's been configured perfectly with our app, which everything is working perfectly as we expected. And now what I have to do is I have to jump into the product list. So let's get to the containers. I'm gonna create this is the place where we have to get over here. Then here I'm just going to say class name, width needs to be screen, and height needs to be screen. Flex item center, justify center, bring everything in the center location. So that will brings everything in the center location. Let me enable the word wrap. Perfect. Now inside this, I'm going to create myself one more division class name, which is going to be width as full, which means 3/4 of the screen size. Then rounded medium, it needs to have a border. Then the border color which we are going to keep is the gray 200. Padding needs to be 4. So I can bring the stores list over here. This is how it's going to looks like. Okay, don't worry about it. And here what we are going to do is basically I'm going to create myself a new component containers component folder over here called this is going to be Redux Thunk example, right? So let's bring all those components over here. Inside here I'm going to bring that products list.jsx. All right, so let me close this, and here RAFCE, which is going to be products list, something like this, products list. Okay, so what we have to do is to get the dispatch action. So let's, to trigger an action, we need the dispatch. So const dispatch is equals to use dispatch. So basically we use this dispatch for what? For triggering an action, right? Then we have the use selector for what? For selecting the state from the Redux. So I'm just going to say const products is equals to use selector, and we do have the select all products, which we simply return this code in a separate file, right? So here I just have to bring the select all products from where? From the features products product selector. Inside the product selector, we don't have anything, just this data. Either you can keep it as a separate file, or you can simply copy this code and put it inside your use selector hook. Okay, both are same. Then I'm gonna get the status is equals to use selector. I'm gonna bring the select product status, which is coming from the same package itself. Okay, I'm gonna close this. Why I need the two separate one? So use dispatch. Perfect. Then right after here, now I need to bring the use effect. So let's use this React instance itself using that use effect hook, call that having an arrow function in it as a single, and array dependency injection as a separate, two different parameters. So here, if there are any action changes in the dispatch, and if there is any changes in the status, please re-render this. And inside this here, I'm gonna check the status. If the status, if it is equals to ideal, in that situation, only then what I need to do, I just need to dispatch the action fetch products, from which coming from where? From your product slice. If you open up your product slice, you can see we have this fetch products. We are going to use that fetch product function. Only if the status is ideal, I'm going to dispatch that action. Okay, then right after here, I'm going to check the status. If it is equals to loading, then at that point I just have to return the loading component over here. For the time being, I'm going to bring a paragraph tag, then I'm going to simply say it's as a loading component. And for this, I'm going to add some animation style called pulse effect for this. Okay, so let's save this. All right. Now, Redux Thunk example, this is the place where we need to bring the product list stuff and everything, right? So we have to bring that product list. Wait a moment. So product list has been not loading. The reason is because we simply keep it as a dummy text. So let's bring the product list over here. And now if I save this changes, you should be able to see, if I refresh it, you can see we have that loading state over there, right? So right after here, if you have any error, status error as a failed, at that point I just need to say fetching error during the, so if I refresh it, we are not getting the loading error state because there is no error because we have our data in our hand, right? So the API, we have to look the API, right? So let me get into the fetcher there, product slice. Okay, let me copy this API, and all I have to do is to get back over here, paste it so I can see the structure. Yeah, I do have an image over here. So let's get back over here and inside the product list, and let's make this as the class name. I'm going to change this into a grid. It's going to be grid column 1 on small devices, but from the medium devices, grid column it's going to be 2, and on the very large device Excel devices, grid column it's going to be 5 columns, something like that, and the gap it's going to be 3, something like this. Save it. Now inside this products list, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the products.map. So products.map function, open it, extract the product out of it, bring the render function in it. Then here you need to bring that the product pin. So I'm going to create that product pin component. I'm going to keep that product pin in the same location itself. If you wish to keep it on a separate. So const product pin, which is equals to open it, return the div with the product itself. So here I just have to supply the key, which is going to be the product.id. So please make sure that you are having the ID over here. Yes, we do have the ID. Perfect. Then I need to supply the product. Product is equals to product itself. Here, bring that product as a prop. Then you can render that product dot title over here. Dot title. Save it. If I save it, I should be able to see the list of product titles over here. See, this is it, which means the data is fetched properly. We can able to see the title as well as. Okay, so let's render the image over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say class name, which is going to be width. Of course, it's going to be full, then rounded medium. It's going to have a border effect, then it's going to have the border gray as 200, then padding it's going to be 2. Save it. Flex column. Okay, and inside here I'm going to bring the image tag source, basically the source, which is going to be product dot image itself, then alternative, which is going to be product dot title itself. Okay, then I'm going to bring an h3 tag where I'm going to display the product dot title, then class name, width of course it's going to be full, then I'm going to use the truncate. So save it. So you should be able to see that we have the list of different products images over here. Okay, so now let's write the styles for this class name. Width, of course, it's going to be full, but height is going to be 40. Object that needs to show only the content section. So you should be able to see the image over here. Okay, so we can basically wrap this stuff into a div, class name width as full, and flex item center, justify everything in the center, then bring the image. So you should be able to see the image, everything is in the center location. Okay, so now we have all these list of products, which means we basically fetch the entire stuff. Now what I'm going to do is we are going to add like a function, like to trigger this function to push all this code into the cart, right? So for, let's say that you wish to create a cart. So all you have to do is to get into the cart folder. Inside the source features, we have the cart, right? Inside the cart, I'm going to create myself the cart slice.js. And inside here, just like the same way, we have to create those import create slice. So at this point here, we don't need this create async thunk because we are not going to do any asynchronous operations over here. So I'm just going to create the cart slice, which is equals to create slice. Like, come on, create slice, open it and bring the object name. Of course, is going to be the cart slice. So cart, then the initial state, which is going to be the items. Basically it's going to be an empty object. Okay, and comma, and here we just need to supply the reduces, which is basically going to be add to cart, going to collect an arrow function, and this function is going to get the state and the action as a property, sorry, the parameter. Inside here I'm just going to say const product, which equals to action dot payload. From the payload we are going to collect that product itself, which you want to add in the items list. So here get the states dot items. Inside the state dot items, I'm going to figure it out that particular product ID object based on, because it's going to have a list of objects in it, and each ID is going to be the like what we are going to structure is we are going to keep an array of objects, nested objects. So in this is the group of object we have inside. Based on the ID, we're going to create an product object in it. So it's going to have a multiple projects based on product ID. So based on the product ID, we can adjust the quantity stuffs and everything. If I do have the product ID inside, then I need to keep all the details of that specific product but I'm going to update the quantity. Okay, you have to destructure all those things. Then uh, don't leave space over here, otherwise it will gives you an issue. Okay, so we have to destructure all the product details. Then we are going to update the quantity as what, as 0. Okay, save it. Then we have to set like what to say, if we don't have the product in object in that particular data, it is going to create it, and right after that we need to update that quantity as well as. So state dot item of that specific product id itself, product dot id itself, I'm going to access the quantity, then plus equals to what, 1. Okay, what's the issue over here? This is supposed to be, oh my bad, this is supposed to be inside here, not outside. That's the issue. State dot items. Okay, so what exactly we are doing here is, at initial point your cart items object is going to be empty, so you don't even have the object in that items. So first here we are checking, merely checking it, whether that product id is already inside the state or not. If it is not inside, create that object inside the items, then assign the quantity as 0. Once you have the project that product items in that items object, right after that you can increase the quantity. If the product items already is inside the cart, then you can simply increment the quantity. This will be ignored. This will be creating that product object inside the items object only if that product is not already in the cart. Okay, then like what to say, we have to remove function. We also have the remove function as well as remove cart. Here state, then we can say actions, which equals to open it. Here I can simply say delete using the delete. Okay, so we have the delete, and we can simply say status dot items of action dot payload. Delete is just the keyword which helps you to delete an object from an object. Okay, based on that id, action payload id, we can delete that. We are going to delete the complete actions. So remove x. So this is the remove cart. So just like this, you can have the update quantity, like increase quantity, delete quantity. But in this case, we're just going to keep it simple for a really simple example, right? So here, I'm just going to say export const from what? From the cart slice. From the cart slice, I'm going to access the actions. So what are the actions that we need to do? Add to cart and remove from cart. Remove cart. These are the things. Okay, then right after here I'm just going to say export default cart slice dot reduces. We have to export it. Then we have to get back into the store. Where is our store? Here, store, configure the cart reducer, which you don't have that. So let's bring that cart reducer from double dot slash features slash cart slice. Okay, this is it. And save it, and let's get back into the products list. So here I have to import that action. So let's say import add to cart from the cart slice function. And here all I have to do is to have one more stuff. So I'm gonna make this as a relative position. Here I'm gonna have myself a division which is an absolute 1. So from the top it's going to be 3, and right side it's going to be 3 as well as. Here let's bring the button as the button. Here I just need to bring the shopping cart icon from the Lucid React. So I should able to see the shopping cart icon. So for this button I can simply say class name, like what, cursor pointer, something like that. So whenever I'm clicking this on click, I'm going to have a callback function. So whenever you're clicking this, I need to add this into the cart. So I can simply say add to cart function. Then I can supply that entire product into it. But before, you can't directly call this. So that's the reason we have the dispatch instance. Okay, so we need to create that dispatch instance where cut this out and put it inside over here. So then only you can use the dispatch instant. Then I can call that add to cart function, then supply the product over here, save it. Okay, so we are getting an error. Inspect the elements. What is that error we are getting? Console. Dispatch is not a function defined. So we defined it over here, right? This being use dispatch. So we triggered it. Why we are getting an error? Okay. Okay. So we need the same dispatch. So I can simply put that dispatch over here and I can collect the dispatch instance. So I can send the dispatch instance as the dispatch over here. I think this should resolve the issue. Yes. Okay. So because we are using the dispatch over here as well, so we need the same dispatch instance. So I just simply propped it to that instead of creating two different dispatch instances. So now if we get into the store, action state, you can see it is of brush it, get into the state. Now if I click this, it should add that product. Yeah, this is the okay, it's loading a different project, so I need to select my project. What I'm wondering why it is not showing. So if I refresh this, you can see inside the state, if I get into the web development project, you can see pending, status was pending, and finally it has been fulfilled. And we have the products data. Inside the product, we have the data array, and we have the status as success. We don't have any error. And inside the cart, currently the items it's been empty. Now, if I try to add this one and this one on click, you should be able to see certain items inside the web development. Click the cart, you should able to see the two different products as an ID, as an object over here. Inside that particular object, you can see ID, and you can see the one more object, which is the quantity, as one, right? So if the user wish to add one more time, if I click this, I should be able to get back to the same project, get into the items, either this one or this one. Should have, see, right now we have the quantity as 2. The reason, because the user selected the same project, so the quantity is incremented over there. So this is how you have to use the React Redux and the React Redux Thunk for working with the asynchronous operations. All right. So I hope you understood what exactly we are working in this particular video. If you have any questions, please drop those questions in the comment sections, and I'm happy to help you out. And if I explain anything in a wrong way, pin it in the comment along with the timeline what I explained it in a wrong way, and I'm happy to correct myself, and I can give you a proper explanation for the timeline as well. As if you have any questions, please drop your questions in the comment sections, and if you have any suggestions as well, as please drop that as well as in the comment sections, and we are happy to help you out. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next video with the more interesting concepts.